Alright, so I'm sure that you recognize I'm not in class today. You are going to have to turn in your notes and work for credit. That's because I'm gone, and I got to make sure you at least try to do your job. Be sure you're not cheating your way through the video, or as some of you like to do, kind of fast forward and just make sure you watch what I'm writing. You want to actually listen to this whole thing word by word, or you might end up losing points at your work. There are directions that I will give verbally that are not visible on the video, and I do that so you have to listen. And it's important that you follow all of the directions, otherwise you receive 0 credit for your work. Again, this is a all or nothing thing, but it's not difficult as long as you just sit back and watch what's going on. What I'm going to do is tell you certain questions that I need you to write for your notes, and don't write anything else but the ones I tell you to write for your notes, unless you write everything. I mean, if you want to write everything on the notes, that's fine, but I'm just going to give you some questions that I want you to write, and maybe some symbols above those numbers or around those numbers. But again, those are things that you will not see on the video. They are things that I will say that I need you to write. So graphing review for next week, just to make sure you understand, you will be using your old skill of graphing to do a major amount of work in those lessons. Graphing is not the focus, but what that means is it's like one of those things where if you don't know how to graph, then you're not going to be able to do anything at all. They're just going to assume that you know how to graph, which is why we're doing a graphing review today, since I am out and since we are slightly ahead of where the week should be. So what we're going to do is begin this week with begin these notes with a graphing review. So do me a favor, at the top of your paper, write what's in front of you, which is the slope intercept is y equals mx plus b, so that I know I can give you your credit. Again, I want to see that at the top of your paper whenever we get there. Again, slope intercept is when y is all by itself. Remember that the number attached to x tells us how far up and over to go. That's your rise over run, and this is your y-intercept number, which tells you how far up or down. Keep in mind we always do this number first and we do this number second, and as long as you have that down, these graphs should be easy to do. Again, just watching these to make sure you understand them, except for the ones I tell you. If you were asked to graph 1/4 x plus 2, remember we look here first. That tells us to go up 2, and that 1/4 tells us to go up 1 over 4, and that we would use a straight edge to draw a line through that. Again, this is just here to bring things back to your memory so you know what's going on. B, graphing y equals -3/4 x minus 1. Again, minus 1 means this number tells us to go down 1. This is telling us to go down 3, right 4, from that dot, and then draw our line. Okay, like I said, not so bad. The equation for C says y equals 2x. Keep in mind that whenever there's nothing there, it's the same thing as saying plus 0, which means that you just start at the origin. But you don't need to write the plus 0. It just means that there's no up or down movement. You're just going to start right there. And again, that 2 is telling you to go up 2 and over 1. Remember, again, 2 as a fraction is 2 over 1. Alright. Do me a favor for your credit. Write letter D on your paper. As you do this, again, I want to see this on your paper. The -4 is telling me to go down 4, and I don't need a perfect picture, just write what I'm writing here on paper here. And then this x is the same as 1x, which means you're going to go up 1 over 1 from there, and that's going to represent the line that you draw. Again, make sure you have that on paper if you want credit for today. That's not much, but like I said, it's just one that I needed to make sure you at least listen to this whole section. And then E, don't need to write E, but y is equal to x plus 2. This is telling me to go up 2. And remember again that -x means -1x, which means from there I go down 1 and over 1 to draw my line. Alright, so again, that is your slope intercept form review. Standard form review, ax plus by is equal to c. It's not, A and B really don't mean anything. Also, C doesn't really mean anything, but what it is there's usually a number attached here and a number attached there, even if it's an invisible 1, and it's usually equal to some constant. Again, do me a favor for the sake of your credit, put this up underneath your slope intercept form and make sure you label it. Write exactly what's there as in standard form equals ax plus by equals c, so you can get your credit as I begin working through some of these. Again, what you're looking at here is 2x plus 3y equals 6. This is the one where you ignore x and you simply write down what is everything else. So 3y is equal to 6 if you cover that up. And if 3y equals 6, that means that y is equal to 2. Remember that that is a y-intercept, and when y is equal to 2, that is your y-axis, which is telling you to go up 2. Second thing you do is you ignore the y, and when you ignore y, you are left with seeing 2x equals 6, which means that when you solve that by dividing by 2, you get x is equal to 3, which is telling you to go 3 steps to the right and draw your best line through those 2 points. That is the standard form graph. It's really not hard to do as long as you understand what to do when you see standard form. Again, pretty much ignore your x or cover it up, write down what's left, solve it. Ignore your y or cover it up, write down what's left and solve it, and go from there. Again, on B, we again would cover up our x, not the negative, but just the x, and you end up with negative 3y equals 12. Switching that around, you get 3y equals negative 12, or for those of you who divide by negative 3, that's fine. Bottom line, you should get the answer of y equals negative 4. Again, that negative 4, because this is your y-axis, means go down 4. Then you ignore your y and you're left with 4x equals 12. Dividing by 4, you end up with x is equal to 3, which is again 3 to the right, and you draw your best line through those 2 points. As I said, next week what's going to happen is this type of graph is going to get mixed in with your slope-intercept type of graph, and you have to make sure you know exactly what you're doing on each one. Again, on this one, ignoring x, you're left with 2y equals 6, which when you divide, you end up with y is equal to 3, which again is up 3. When you ignore y, you're left with x is equal to 6, which is already done for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we go from there. Do me a favor and go ahead and write the answers for D and write all the work I'm about to put here. Ignoring y, we get 3x equals 3. We divide both sides by 3, getting x equals 1. Again, you should be writing this, so make sure all this work is on there whenever I go to check your work later on tomorrow or whenever I get back. X being 1 means I'm going here. Ignoring x, I get negative y equals 3, which means that when I switch that around, y is equal to negative 3, which is down 3, and your line goes through like that. So it should only be like 3 or 4, maybe 5 things that you've had to write so far, as long as you're watching the video like you're supposed to. Second thing we're going to use today since again we are a little bit ahead and we got the quiz tomorrow and we all should do well on that, is to review for the quiz. Tomorrow itself, though, is more important than your immediate grade. We just going to take a moment to look at some problems for tomorrow's quiz so you can be ready. Be sure to write down the questions that I verbally tell you to write. Again, otherwise you're not going to receive any credit for this activity. You don't have to write any of this stuff, but again, just make sure that you are at least following along and listening to what's going on, because this is also strategy that I'm talking about. So just make sure you're ready to go. Question A is the one from earlier this week where they tell you that y is equal to 2 and that they want the value of x and that they want your final answer as an ordered pair. So here, if I know that y is equal to 2, what the point of this week was that we do not have to write both of them. You only have to do one. And again, the easiest one, if you're looking at it, is the bottom one. But I'm not really going to do that. I'm going to follow along with my typical pattern. 2x plus 3y equals 14. Keep in mind, again, if y is equal to 2, that means that I turn my y into a 2 and just do algebra from there to find x. That gives me 2x plus 6 equals 14, which from there I can subtract 6, getting 2x equals 8, and then I can divide by 2, getting x equals 4. And again, they want this as an ordered pair, and so I'm going to put x first, which is 4, y second, which is 2, and that is going to give me all of the credit that I can possibly get for this. Okay? So other than that, like I said, just make sure you're ready for that step. Also, if you give one like B, where it tells you that x is equal to 6 and find the value of y, write your final answer as an ordered pair. Again, y is by itself. Actually, you don't care about that. We don't have to solve it. They give us x is equal to 6, so we simply write one. And again, I usually just write the first one. You can always write the second one. Just pick one and make sure you write it exactly the way it is, and then substitute. X equals 6 means put a 6 in here. That turns into y equals 12 minus 9, which then becomes y is equal to 3. And again, as an ordered pair is what they want, so we have to put 6 comma 3 as our answer on that one. Alright. So that's the first thing that we had to review to make sure you're ready for, and here is the second one. Outside of the graphing or finding the solutions by graphing, which we did yesterday, this is the other one where it's just going to say solve. I need you to keep in mind that when it says solve, it wants both answers on that. Okay, again, it wants both solutions on that answer whenever you do that. So you have to actually do either substitution or elimination and then finish it off by actually finding the second value. Either way, I notice here that nothing's by itself. So what I do now is I bring up my 2 and bring down my 3 if you remember doing elimination, because I have to since it's nothing's in with the variable by itself. This turns into 6x, 4y, and 18 times 2 gives me 36. Down here I end up with 6x minus 3y equals 15. From there I have to switch on my signs. This goes away. I end up with 7y equaling 36 minus 15, which is 21. And again, from there I divide by 7 to find out that y is equal to 3. Keep in mind again on tomorrow's quiz, because I'm not going to get to go over this with you tomorrow, which is why I'm doing it now, you cannot stop here. You will get half your points for this, but you have to go and get the other answer, which means take and write one of your 2 equations and turn that y into a 3 now. So 3x plus 2 times 3 equals 18. That means that 3x plus 6 is equal to 18, which means from there I simply subtract 6 and divide by 3 to get the answer of x equals 4. Again, if you want full credit, put your question into ordered pair form. X goes first, y goes second. That would be where you would stop. Okay? And then D says solve y equals 4x minus 3 and 6x minus y equals 7. Again, in this problem I have a y by itself, so it means I can do substitution. Everything in front of the box, 6x minus parentheses 4x minus 3 equals 7. From there, remember again that negative means we switch everything. So 6x minus 4x plus 3 equals 7. What that gives me now is that 2x plus 3 is equal to 7, and I solve from there. In order to get that done, I will add or subtract 3 from both sides. 2x therefore is equal to 4, and then dividing by 2 on both sides, I get x equals 2. But again, remember, this is only part of what you have to do tomorrow. Now we take one of those 2 things, those 2 equations, and you substitute your x for 2. So y is equal to 4 times 2 minus 3. This turns into a 8 minus 3, which 8 minus 3 turns into 5. And writing this in ordered pair form is 2 comma 5 as your answer. Alright, so outside of that, what I want you to do now, and don't hit pause yet, because there's one more thing you're going to do to some of your numbers. What I want you to do at this point is take the very first problem that you wrote down, whatever that number was, and just put a box around that whole problem so that I know you actually listened to the full video. So just put a box around your whole first problem, and other than that, hand your notes into the sub for credit. As long as you have everything, I think it's only again 3 or 4 things. Begin working on the worksheet for the day. This will also be handed in at the end of the day. So again, if you don't do work because you think that Mr. Bradley's not there, so you're just going to sit there and get away with it, that's fine. You don't have to, but you're going to get a 0 on that part. I don't need you to finish the worksheet, but again, I should have at least something that shows that you did enough work for the day. Again, this is maybe 15 to 20 minutes of your time, which means you've got another 30 minutes of work, and I should see 30 minutes worth of work. Again, for those of you who know what you're doing, you probably will finish. But even for those of you who don't know what you're doing, if you can work together, there's no reason you should not be able to get through half of this sheet before you hand it in at the end of the day. Just make sure you're ready to work. Again, no work is no excuse, and it is going to pull your grade down for whatever it is. So other than that, good luck, and I will see you guys tomorrow.